Program and Outreach Coordinator for the Center for European Studies. And we're very happy today to have Dr. Mariano Torcal here to talk about the current events in Catalonia. I'll leave it to him to talk more about his structure of his content. But I just want to introduce Mariano, the short version. He is a professor of political science and ICREA research fellow at the Department of Political and Social Science at Pompeu Fabra University in Barcelona. He is the co-director of the Research Enterprise Center for Survey Methodology at the Pompeu Fabra University as well. He's also a senior adjunct faculty at the Graduate School of International Studies at the University of Denver since 2006. Currently, he is here at UNC as our Jean Monnet Visiting Scholar for the semester, and he has published numerous articles on topics such as political disaffection and new democracies, electoral behavior, political participation, and those include various high-ranking international journals. He is a member of editorial boards on many of those journals as well, and has most recently co-authored a book called The Europeanization of National Policies, Citizenship and Support in a Post-Enlargement Union. With that, I want to turn it over to Dr. Mariano Torcal. We're really happy to have him today, and at the end we'll allow some time for questions after he goes over his presentation, so be thinking of those as you go along. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation and also for inviting me. It was John's idea actually to give this talk, so I accepted the challenge. And when I say it's a challenge, it's for two reasons: because it's a very complex situation to explain, and secondly, because obviously I live in Catalonia for 17 years right now, but I'm not Catalan, so for me it's a very emotional topic to talk right now because things are happening as we speak, you know. So it's very difficult for me, and it's very challenging. So, but anyhow, I accepted the challenge, and so I'm thankful for this invitation. Okay, I'm not going to try to be, I hope, and I'm going to be try to create a lot of polemic about all of this. I'm trying to disentangle a little bit and together with me, what are the complex keys of understanding of the situation. Okay. So why this talk now? Because, well, and why this talk and why we was talking about Catalonia right now? Okay, it's because it's a unique political process. It's a process of secession in a democratic constitutional democracy in the European Union, and so that is very important because we don't have any kind of examples before, so it's very unique. And secondly, because it's happening inside the European Union, which has a lot of consequences from also outside for Spain, from the European Union. So the European Union doesn't want to intervene in the process, but they're very looking at it very closely because it could have a lot of implications for the rest of the countries in the European Union and the European Union itself. Also because it's a highly decentralized state. So don't get confused by the idea that, you know, it's because Catalonia or Spain is very highly centralized state. It's a very highly decentralized state, and we are going to show you some data supporting that from the comparative point of view. So why it could happen in a democratic, decentralized state? Why this could be happening the way it's happening and reaching these levels of political polarization? And also, it might have, already said, it might have huge consequences for Europe and the European integration process. Because a lot of people, a lot of territories in the European Union are looking at what is going on in Spain. Even inside of Spain, because the Basque Country is also looking what is going on with Catalonia. So it could have implications not only inside of Spain for the regions of Spain, but other regions with problematic issues, very similar problematic issues around all over Europe. You know? And it might have disastrous consequences on the largest countries in Europe and one of the most important economies in the European Union, which actually is, we have a huge economic crisis, but right now Spain is one of the countries that is growing the fastest in the European Union by far. So, and in the middle of this growth and in the middle of this recovery, suddenly this situation emerged as a very problematic situation. So that's why everybody's talking about it. What is going on there? Why this is happening? Okay, so I'm trying to tackle this problem by first I'm going to have a brief description of the current situation, what is going on now. Probably as we speak, already it's too old because it's like things are changing right by the hour. Really, is the situation. I'm going to give you also, secondly, after this brief description, I'm going to have a brief general background and description of really major events. Sorry, it's going to tell you, okay, what happened recently in the 5-6 years that you have to take into consideration to understand the complexity of the problem. I'm going to try to also, in a way, discard the well-accepted generalizations about explaining this. So, for instance, it's a problem about national identities. I don't think that's what is going on. It's becoming that. It's a consequence. But the origin of this is not a problem of national identities. You know. And so we're going to talk about a lot of this. It's not also, as I mentioned before, it has not to do with the level of decentralization. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Okay, and I'm going to offer more complex explanations of why this is happening in a way, and these explanations are tackling more the process of polarization of the conflict. So I'm not going to go into some kind of historical background or what happened with Catalonia and Spain and on and on and on, because this is the background which is important to take into consideration. But what is very clear is that this problem emerged in a level of polarization in the last 10, 15 years that it was not there before. You know, so I'm going to try to explain what are the factors that might explain this polarization over time that is so extreme right now. And then the final part is like, and now what? There's still room for a solution. What is going to happen? You know, and so I'm going to offer a window of opportunity that still is there in terms of finding a political solution, but it's not easy. And I'm going to explain to you what are the problems with this window of opportunity I'm offering for trying to find a solution. Okay. So what is going on there? You know, that's the picture of the current president of Catalonia, and it's, as I tell you, this thing is like changing all the time. So, for instance, you know that they declared independence, but it was immediately 5 minutes later suspended. So nobody knows what is going on. Are we independent or no, or we are not independent? And not only that, they later signed a declaration of independence outside of the plenary session. So what the international press captured, it was like, okay, I declare it following a Catalan legislation. I'm going to explain that it's actually has law problems. I'm going to declare it, but I suspend it immediately. So all the people who were like expecting to have the independence that day, they were really disappointed. Like, what happened? And the Spanish government, which is very incredible, they spent like 2 weeks sending formal letters from the president from Spain to the president of Catalonia. Have you declared independence or not? And the guy said, well, I declared it, but no, I didn't declare it. So we are moving in this constant back and forth that is nobody's understanding what is going on and what is the current status. Okay? In the middle of this, they have an economic disaster. Okay, more than 1,300 companies left Catalonia. Okay, I'm going to show you some numbers about this. Some people are claiming, I'm going to discuss this, that it has been promoted by the government. I'm going to show you that doesn't make any sense. Okay, but this is an economic disaster, and this is a very important point because it could be a turning point in many sectors of the Catalan economy, Catalan society, which I might say, okay, this is crazy. We are going to lose everything. You know, so that's an important point. So every day in the news, it is a new big company who's leaving Catalonia. You know, so and that is a disaster. Right now, immediate results are not. You don't see the immediate results, but they might produce a lot of problems in the coming future. Okay. So and also right now, the central government decided to apply an Article 155 of the Spanish Constitution. Okay, you will ask me, what is that? But this has been the threat of the Spanish government all the time, which means that the Constitution allowed to intervene in the Catalan government and take over the Catalan government if some regional government in Spain decided to do something that's unconstitutional. Okay? The problem with this, it has never been applied before. And how you do it, we don't know. So the government don't know what are the steps to do that. And I'm going to explain that later on. You know, how you do it. You know, so the first thing needs to be approved and discussed in the Senate. That's not going to be a problem because the majority of the what is called constitutional parties in the Senate. So it's going to be approved there, but also in the Senate they have to discuss. So yeah, we approve it, but what we're going to do? Because they don't know what to do. And secondly, honestly, the capacity, whatever the news present, the capacity of the Spanish state to deploy some kind of measures in Catalonia are very limited because the presence of the state is very limited. If you're talking about the central state, you know, so even if they decided to apply some things, how are they going to do it? You know, they're going to go and take over the Catalan police. How do you do that? You know, so you're going to. So this is a very problematic situation. So we're discussing all this. You know, some parties and even the central government are claiming for new Catalan elections as a solution. So at this point, part of the discussion is like, okay, the way to resolve this is that you, President of Catalonia, dissolve the Catalan parliament, which means you're going back to the legal system, to the legal framework, and call for Catalan elections. The problem is that he's not willing to do that. So the central government is saying, well, then we're going to take over the Catalan government and dissolve the Catalan parliament. But that is constitutionally questionable because that will be stretching too much the Article 155. So it will be questionable. But a lot of parties are actually in the news that even Catalan parties are like considering that could be the solution. Why they consider it the solution? Because it will be under the assumption that so many things happened during these months or this year and a half that maybe we're going to see a lot of movement electorally talking, and it's going to represent more clearly what is the picture of the conflict, hoping that the conflict is going to really resolve that way. We don't know. We'll see. But you will see, it could be the other way around. You know. So that's why it's playing right now, and also, if you call for elections in Catalonia by the central government, so it goes to dissolve the Catalan parliament and call for elections, it could be a cut by the non-constitutional parties. So they say, okay, we don't run this because we don't recognize your capacity to dissolve the Catalan parliament, and therefore you can call for elections, go for it, but we are not going to participate in it, which could be also a very dangerous situation because you're going to have a Catalan parliament mostly full by constitutional parties, you know, but nothing else. So what is the level of legitimacy of that, you know? So that is what is going on right now. Okay. This is what I was always explaining about the economic situation, just to explain you why it happened. There is the Catalan government, and I'm going to explain this. The Catalan government said, no, relax. There's two things that are going to happen with independence. Number one, we're going to be out of the European Union. Number two, nothing is going to happen economically. Banks, and Catalan banks, and these are the two most important Catalan banks, the CaixaBank and Sabadell, okay, they're not going to leave. You know, because the Catalan economy is very strong, and on, and we're a rich society, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, what happened is that you see, that's the day of the referendum, okay, this, and the following days, start all the companies to leave Catalonia immediately. And that was the banks. The first ones were the banks, CaixaBank and Sabadell. So they were, the Catalan government and the pro-independence parties are saying, okay, this is because the Spanish government has been threatening all these companies to leave and fostering this process. Okay, this is going to tell you what exactly happened. You use the stakeholders of these banks, and this day start to decline substantially. So the board, and the same process here. So the board of these banks decide, okay, no, look, we're losing any ground because why? Because of the economic reasons. We are nothing outside of the European Union. Financially, it's not viable. Number one, and number two, the greater percentage of our market is in the rest of the state, not in Catalonia. So therefore, you know, people are, you know, the stock market, the value of the stock market of these banks are declining very fast. And as soon as they decided to move out of Catalonia, increased back. So what is the market, what really forced most of the companies to leave Catalonia because the judicial uncertainty, because of all these problems that were going on. So, and also without the possibility of getting any resources outside of the central bank in Europe. So therefore it's like, okay, no, we have to go back to make it believe that, to the people believe that we are actually going to move somewhere else. So all these banks are now not in Catalonia anymore. Okay, so that's the current situation. Okay, we're going to need a little bit brief background of what's going on. Okay, this conflict has a long history. Okay, the Catalan and one of the reasons because people don't understand is that the creation of the Spanish state was a very problematic process. It's not only with the Catalans, it was this with a lot of kingdoms, and the complexity of this process can justify any kind of independence movement, really, And so this idea that Spain was created by the marriage of Ferdinand and Isabel is a myth. It was, in fact, was a confederation of kingdoms that remained their political autonomy, fiscal autonomy, and legal autonomy for a long, long, long time.
See, we learned that in the second grade.
Okay. Okay, good. When the process to try to create a unified state arrived much more during the 18th century, when the Bourbon crown arrived to Spain and took over the Spanish state. Okay, that's when the process of the conflict between the Catalans and the rest of the state emerged. Okay, one other thing I want to make very clear, and for a lot of people in Catalonia are going to hate me because of what I'm going to say. Catalonia was never a kingdom or independent state ever in history. They have their own political autonomy, it's true. They have their own legislation, it's true. They have their own language, they have their own culture, on and on. But they were part of another larger kingdom and state. It was the Kingdom of Aragon. So this myth that Catalonia at some moment in time constituted an independent state never happened. What really happened, they were part of a larger kingdom, and they remain, they have some capacity to self-govern. But even, it was also undefined what these Catalan entities were territorially undefined in a way. It's not exact corresponds of what they claim this to Catalonia and Países Catalanes that are what actually happened. So that is part of the problem, okay? But I don't want to go into this because my point about this is like you can go back in history, whatever you want, and you can find thousands of examples of, no, we were independent, we're not, we're independent, we're not, no, whatever, and that's not the point. The point you have to understand is, okay, there was some historical background to justify whatever political position you want to justify, but we want to understand why this conflict was kind of dormant for a long time and now suddenly emerged as a very important conflict, okay? So that's what I'm saying at this point. This conflict emerged twice, and also during the 20th century, there was all the two examples of the declarations of independence of Catalonia. It was during the Spanish Second Republic in 1931 and 1934, and both things really bad. Okay, so it were bad examples, and and I'm going to go into the details why that happened, but it happened. But again, it was very funny because the story is that Catalans tend to declare independence when there is a democratic system in place, not when there is an authoritarian regime. So the question is like, it's like 31 and 34 were periods in which Spain was in the process of constituting a second republic and a democratic system. Okay. But all this conflict, say, was dormant and settled with the approval of the Spanish Constitution and the arrival of what is called Comunidades Autónomas. Comunidades Autónomas is the name that received all the regions in Spain. There is 17 in Spain. Okay. So the question is, Spain and Catalonia are democratic? Yes, we are democratic. They have a Spanish constitution that was approved in 1978, approved by a great majority people in referendum, even including in Catalonia. So a big majority of people in Catalonia also, with a big participation, decided to support this model. Okay, but there are some problems in the Spanish constitution because it was not perfect. So the people who were claiming for a long time we need to reform the constitution, they are right, we need to reform the constitution because there were some problems going on. Number one is it was poorly defined, the territorial model. It was poorly defined. So the interpretation of what it should be and what your responsibilities are not your responsibilities, it was very blurred. You know? So in fact, what we see in Spain is an implementation of by practice. You know, okay, we should do this, we should do that. No, and it was a lot of political negotiation. It was a constant negotiation between the central government and the Spanish and the regional governments, and especially the Catalan and Basque governments, which they have a huge influence in the formation of governments at the national level. So when they have this capacity, that leverage to influence the formation of the national government, because one of the big parties didn't have the majority in the parliament, then it pushed for this decentralization process. And they were very successful, as we're going to see. You know? So that's one of the, so these 17 regions of Comunidades Autónomas were, the attribution of what had happened, or should be, it was very poorly defined. In fact, the Constitution don't say, okay, it has to be 17 regions. No. The Constitution said, okay, you can propose to be an autonomous community if you comply for a different conditions. And in that respect, they talk about two ways to become a community autónoma. What is called the historical and non-historical ones. Okay, that's one of the sources of the problem. Because at the end, this distinction was gone. Whatever the historical comunidades autónomas achieved, it was also achieved by the non-historical comunidades. So in a way, something I'm going to explain, you know, the centralization process was very high, but it was very high all over the Spanish territory. And so the Catalans and the Basque, you know, and the Galicians say we were historical, we were supposed to be different. We were supposed to have more autonomy. We're supposed to be much more self-government. So we don't see why this is a multilateral negotiation. It has to be a bilateral negotiation with each of with the Catalans and the Basque because we are the historical ones. You know, so that's part of the discussion as well. Also, we recognize the existence of multiple nationalities, but no nations. And that also it's a language thing, but it was a tricky discussion that was going on for a long, long time. Because you're not a nation, we're just a nationality. Okay, well, what was the difference? And there was this discussion and on and on, okay? And the presence of 4 different official languages. So people can speak Catalan, see, you know, whatever, you know, and I'm going to explain a little bit more in detail. And not only that, most of the conflicts that were taken to the Constitutional Court, let me tell you, 80% of the conflicts that were taken to the Constitutional, or appeals that were taken to the Constitutional Court in Spain since the democracy was established, it has to do with conflicts between comunidades autónomas and the central government all the time. And in most of the cases, the Constitutional Court actually ruled in favor of the comunidades autónomas. So this idea that the Constitutional Court in Spain is terrible, and there were some decisions that were controversial, but overall, you look at the statistics, you know, there were many, more than 80% of the resolutions of this Constitutional Court was in favor of the comunidades autónomas. Okay? Not only that, Catalonia is democratic. You know, the democratic process since 1977, it has 39 elections in Catalonia since the democracy was established. So people say, no, it's not a democracy. Well, you have a democratic system, you have a party, we have a parliament, you have a law, and no problem. And people like present, and there were pro-independence parties from the very beginning. So they were not allowed, and they were not everything was accepted, and no problem. Okay? And they have 4 referendums, 2 national, with the majority part of the Spanish constitution among them, and also the approval of the Catalan constitution. We call this the Estatutos. The Estatutos de Autonomía is the Catalan constitution that was also approved, and the last reform was approved in a referendum in 2006. So we're talking about here some kind of a very strong constitutional framework guaranteeing the basic rights of the Catalan citizens and self-government, you know, and that's what is going on, right? So what is the real function of the system? Because one thing is what the Constitution says, and what the other thing is what really is going on. Okay, so post-Franco Spain, so we're talking about this period, they were free to have cultural practices, teaching Catalan in schools, teach Catalan in schools. In fact, it's what is called the teaching language or the vehicular language. It means like Catalan is the dominant language in the school. In the public schools, so like practically like 90% of the curriculum is taught in Catalan, so, you know, and Catalan is on the streets, television, newspapers, and Catalan is spoken in the Catalan parliament. So there is no restrictions to that. However, okay, again, Spain recognizes the existence of nationalities but no nations, and that's where part of the discussion. Also, failure to create symbolic elements of the multinational state. So yes, it was approved, but it has been always a resistance, and that is true. The Catalans are right about it. You know, there is not a very clear symbolic acceptance of that we are in a multinational state. That you know, why not in the Spanish Parliament people don't speak Catalan? They should be able to speak Catalan, and it's forbidden. So when the Catalan representative goes to the Spanish Parliament, they are not allowed to speak in Catalan, which doesn't make any sense because we're talking about a multinational state. All these things, you know, like the picture of the king is still on display. You know, all the government buildings in Catalonia, and on, and there was some dispute over that. And they say in Catalan, no spoken in national parliament, we're talking about Spanish Parliament. And also another issue, which actually I tell you is one of the most important issues. It seems like very residual, but it's one of the most important issues. It has to do with investment in communication networks. It means like, you know, roads, trains, and on and on. Spain, I don't know if you've been there recently, but it has a very efficient, clean, centralized communication system. And they invest a lot of money on that. The problem with this is they have this centralized system network. So the Catalans complain about this, like if I go, so put your example, if you want to go to Bilbao from Barcelona, I have to go to Madrid, and then from Madrid, which is the center, and then from Madrid go to Bilbao. And the Catalans are complaining about this, what is called the Mediterranean corridor, which means like we need the road and we need a system of communication that connects Barcelona with the rest of the coast in the east, which is not happening. So they're complaining about that, and that is something that has been complained about. So there, and also, for instance, another problem is this, and the Senate is not a real house of territorial representation. I don't want to go into a discussion why this is the case, and on and on. But so, again, formally, in many areas, we were in a constitution that was sensitive to the diversity, cultural diversity of Spain, self-government, on. But there were a lot of problems, you know, and so denying that, which some people deny in Spain, is being stupid because that's also part of the problem. Sometimes, when it comes to these things, and when it comes to emotions, having symbolic things that help people to feel identified, not within the Spanish nation, but with the Spanish state, would help. You know, but no, many people say no. We deny that possibility, and that was part of it, especially the Conservative Party. And I have to talk about a little bit about that. What happened? Oh no, switch it off. Okay. So what is behind the radicalization of the pro-independence movement? Well, there's some genuine concerns. I mean, when you go and I live in Catalonia and I listen to these guys at the very beginning of the discussion, I was like thinking, well, some things are right because I live in Catalonia, I know what is going on. You know, by the way, this has become a war of flags. I mean, so you see the news, you don't understand because so many flags. So let me point out that all of these are pro-independence flags, which is like the flag that represents the países catalanes, not only Catalonia, países catalanes, which, by the way, like any nationalistic movement, is imperialist. So the claim is not only Catalonia, but includes also Valencia and includes the Balearic Islands, because they consider originally some moment in time they were part of Catalonia, which is not true. You know, but so I mean, and this flag, what it has, you know, it has. You go to Barcelona, you see everywhere. It's everywhere, all the balconies and everywhere around. Okay, but that's not the constitutional flag of Catalonia. Okay, there is another constitution besides the constitutional flag of Spain. There is the constitutional flag of Catalonia. I'm going to explain you what is the difference in the next one. But okay, go back to the concerns. Okay, so there was some concerns. You know, it's true there was an economic and fiscal situation that was problematic in Catalonia. Okay, which was exacerbated by the crisis that started in 2008. So to the point that the Catalan government was not able even to pay the basic invoices that they have to pay. I mean, it's a moment in time they even talk about, I mean, civil servants. You know, full professors were civil servants, and there were a couple of months that they had to reduce our salary because they didn't have cash to pay us. So there was some problem going on. Okay, that was a serious problem. It was not only in Catalonia, but in Catalonia it was worse. Okay. Also, there was a lack of sensitivity to multinationalism and its symbols. And they complain about, the Catalans complain about this. And it's true. I mean, it's true. There is not much respect for the cultural diversity and national diversity of Spain in some parts of Spain. Okay? And also another thing is that the unwillingness of the Spanish government to discuss new mechanisms of funding. So at some point in time, when the crisis was at the worst in 2010, or before 2009, the president of Catalonia go there and say, look, I want to discuss this. Why we don't discuss about this? And the Spanish government, obviously the timing was not very good because we're in the middle of the fiscal crisis in Spain, it was about to collapse, really economically, but the timing was not the best one. But instead of like being a little receptive and say, well, you know, you're right, but we have to talk about this later on, you know, no, it was no. Okay, so that, but the Catalan government in some moment in time was bluffing. They started to bluff. You don't listen to us, it's going to have consequences. Okay, so that's part of the origin of the problem. It is true that together with that, it started to be a proliferation of pro-independence and anti-Spanish views in Catalan media. Catalans denied it, but it's true. The same way that I'm saying that the Spanish out of Catalonia, the image that was presented of Catalans were diminished, and it was disrespectful. The same way I have to say that and I suffered that. The Spanish projection and idea of what Spain was under Spain, it was very bad. To give you an example, even the interpretation of the Spanish Civil War, which pretty much was reduced like Catalans against the rest of Spain. That's ridiculous. Doesn't make any sense. If you know a little bit about the Civil War in Spain, it doesn't make any sense at all. You know, so there was this thing. What is Spain is about fascism. Spain equals to fascism. Spain is equal to all traditions. Spain is equal to lazy people. Spain. These ideas were in the media all the time. Okay, so there was in both sides to start this process of complete disrespectful to each other, and portray these terrible images. Okay, and also. Together with that, so it increased the propaganda against Spain, that's very clear, and also the electoral growth of the most radical parties that were very residual. Esquerra Republicana de Catalunya is a historical party that existed even in the Second Republic in Spain, but it was very residual. They were never had really much support, and suddenly they started to grow and grow and grow. And CUP is a very radical leftist populist party who is now a key actor in all this process, but didn't existed before. And their support is increasing over time. So all this is like that is together with the symptoms of the radicalization of independent movements. And what about the constitutional side? Well, inside of Catalonia, and I have to say this, it's something it was called by public opinion expert in political science. It's called the spiral of silence. These people you don't want to talk, you know, because it's a dominant discourse. It's not like they don't allow you to speak. They allow you to speak. But you feel the pressure. You felt, many Spaniards, pro-constitutional, felt the pressure that expressing this, you know, these concerns about the process of what was going on, you know, it was not very well accepted. Okay, so going back actually to the going back to the flag thing, you see this is the Spanish flag and this is the constitutional Catalan flag. Okay, so you don't see the compared with the other one is completely different. You know, so the stripes are the same, but they're completely different in the rest. You know, so but that is allowed. So people are when you see so these are a lot of people saying, look, I'm Spanish and Catalan. So I'm not. I don't understand why these identities should be not embedded together. You know. So anyhow, it was true. There was a constitutional side. There was in Catalonia there was the silence and the spiral of silence, but also was a constant attack to the Catalan culture, symbols, and identity. That's very clear in the media too. Very clear, and Catalans complain about that, and they're right. You know, promotion of even economic boycotts. There was, you don't know, you know this cava is called Freixenet. It's here in the United States. It's a Catalan cava. You know, and there was a campaign in Spain for people to not buy Freixenet because it was Catalan. So those things were there, and they were promoted by specific parties as well, which is the Conservative Party. Also, another problem was also the PSOE was the one, or to be more exact, the PSC. Sorry. The PSC, which is a, I'm sorry, I'm not very good at this thing. No, I already found that. Sorry, I'm lost now. I'm too far. Okay, the PSC is a socialist party in Catalonia, Partido Socialista de Catalunya. Okay. Okay, this is. The relationship with the Socialist Party in Spain, which is the PSOE, is very problematic. It's one of the elements that is hidden, but is key in understanding all of this. Why I'm saying this? Because the Socialist Party has been in favor of finish this debate by revising the constitution and create a real federal state, which in practical terms doesn't mean very much, because it's already a very decentralized state. But they talk about this and on. The problem with the position with the Socialist Party is that they were fragmented internally. And this fragmentation also is more problematic because the party, the Socialist Party in Catalonia, they claim this is an independent party, part of a federation. So in fact, there is not a unified party all in all the territory of Spain. It's a federation of different parties, which includes the Socialist Party in Catalonia. Okay, but every time that any leader of the Socialist Party talk about the possibility of a federation of Spain, where Catalonia is going to do an important role, and on, every time they talk about this, all the leaders of the Socialist Party for Andalusia and other regions of Spain say, no way, no way, no way. So it's a conflict. In fact, let me say that Sanchez was the leader that was elected recently, and last year he has to resign and have elections in the Socialist Party because of that particular issue, because Sanchez was in favor of reopening the debate about federal state in Spain and being more receptive about the demands of the Socialist Party in Catalonia, and the other traditional leaders which come from the Socialists, they come from South Spain, they forced him to resign and say, no way. You know, then, stupid enough, they have elections inside of the Socialist Party, and Sanchez again emerges the leader of it. So they spent like 1 year killing each other, dealing with this problem, but at the end the outcome was the same. Sanchez became again the leader of the Socialist Party. Okay? And it's true that the PP government attempt to re-centralize some responsibilities of the Catalan government. For instance, in education. There was a terrible Minister of Education, part of it, that sold this idea that we need to re-Spanish Catalonia. So they were trying to intervene in the curriculum of the education in Catalonia, and on and on. So there was a ton of, they were not very successful, but they tried. That alienated all Catalans feeling horrible and making this idea that PP, the Conservative Party, is equal to Spain, and therefore everybody is horrible, we should get independent. Okay? And another important aspect in this complexity that I'm describing is Ciudadanos. Ciudadanos is a party that emerged. It's called, Ciudadanos means in Spanish citizens. It's a party that emerged in Catalonia, originally only Catalonia. And it's very pro-constitutional, but Catalans perceived it as very anti-Catalan. And that party started to grow in Catalonia, and not only grow in Catalonia, they become very relevant in the rest of the state very fast, especially after 2014. And the stability of the government of the APP depends on the support of this party. So this party ideologically is moderate, but when it comes to Catalonia, they are very radical. It's like no negotiation, nothing. We have to dismantle all this nationalism, and on and on and on and on. Okay, so that creates more strain. So we have a situation with the PSOE, so we have a strong PP conservative party, which the idea of Spain is the whole idea of Spain. Okay, we have the PSOE who's thinking about a federal government, but it's highly fragmented. They cannot control what is going on, and every time a leader proposes the idea of a federal state, there's a huge debate inside of the party. So they have not a very clear position. And then we have Ciudadanos as the third important party, and I'm going to talk about Podemos later on, which is another one, but Ciudadanos, which is like, is ideologically center-right. It could be more moderate in some things than the PP, but they are anti-Catalan, very good. Okay, so even though the leader is Catalan, right? But that's the issue. So all this picture a very complex situation that it was not very easy to handle. So here is very fast. I'm going to go very fast. It's like the main parties. Okay. So pro-Catalan independent parties. We have the new party that I mentioned to you. It's a populist, very leftist, radical. It was created recently. It's a minority in terms of electoral support, but a key actor in maintaining the stability of the Catalan government. So they are setting the agenda, and that's part of the problem. This radical party is setting the agenda of the Catalan government. Okay? Then we have what I mentioned, ERC, which is Historical Pro-Independence Party, but before 2003, only fifth political force in Catalonia. Now are the first one. So what made this thing to you? What happened in Catalonia? That this party, that it was the fifth political force between 1977 to until 2003, and even later, because we can go to even more elections, but especially for 2003, that was the fifth political force. Now is the most voted party in the system. Okay, and we have the traditional. And it's very complex all of this because they changed name different times. But this is the name of the Nationalist Conservative Party. Okay, let me tell you something. This guy has been in power in the Catalan government since self-government in Catalonia was established. There were only exceptions in which they were not in power is between 2003 and 2006. Sorry, and 2010. Sorry, there were 7 years. The rest of the years, CIU, or the new party, because they changed the party recently, it's called PDCAT. Okay, and the reason because they changed the name is because there were huge scandals of corruption of this government and the Catalan government and the leaders. So they decided they cannot survive anymore with the way in old names. So okay, the way to get rid of that is like we changed the name of the party, and now it's called PDCAT. Okay, so they refund the party, but it's the same party, the same leaders, and on. Okay, so the idea is like, okay, but these guys has been very key, not only controlling the Catalan government most of the time, but also they were key actors in maintaining the stability of the central government. They negotiated everything. It has been negotiating all that what they wanted, and on. But at the same time, that was the party who eventually, with the fiscal crisis, went to Madrid and said, okay, we want to renegotiate the fiscal system once more, because it has been negotiated many times. And that's the moment in which the conservative leader, Mariano Rajoy, said, no more, this is finished. And that's the beginning of the problem. So now, the PDCAT and Esquerra Republicana de Catalunya, they form a coalition now, Junts pel Sí, which means together for the yes. Okay, they're still divided parties, but they're together, running together in elections. And the idea is like, okay, we have to form this nationalist movement. But think about this, ideologically they're so different because the PDK is very conservative and the ERC are leftist. Okay, I didn't have any ideological objectives, no. Okay, so, sorry, so that's part of the problem. Okay, constitutional force, I already mentioned all of them. I don't think I have to mention any more. Socialists with the Dutch, which was the name of Catalonia, later renamed Ciudadanos for the rest of Spain, Partido Popular, which has been controlling the government since 2011. The only thing I want to say about Partido Popular, that is a very residual party in Catalonia. They never reach above 12% of the vote. And that's an important factor to consider. Because electorally talking, they have no capacity to grow in Catalonia. But they know, and I'm going to emphasize this point, they know that the things when it get worse in Catalonia, they're going to get more votes outside of Catalonia. So there are many of the strategies that the PP are thinking for Catalonia are conditioned by the fact that they're not able to get any vote in Catalonia, but they're going to get a lot of votes out of Catalonia if they get rough, very rough with the Catalans. Okay? And the other thing I want to say, which is make also the picture more complex, is United Left. United Left was a former communist party that was renamed in Spain, and it was a coalition of different parties, on. Okay. What is important to understand also, which is that this party has been replaced since 2014 by Podemos, the famous Podemos, We Can, okay, which is a populist radical left party, which they're playing their own game, you know. This is the name in Catalonia, have a different name in Catalonia, okay, which means Catalonia can, that's what the translation in Catalan, and what it means is like, and these guys are playing a game which is like very ambivalent and is not helping what they're saying. And remember, this is the third most voted party right now in Spain. So they're saying, yes, we want a referendum, but we don't want independence. But we want a referendum. And the assumption that first, two things. First, that the outcome of the referendum is going to be no, which is to be seen, and not at this point. And number two, that a referendum with the result of no is going to resolve the problem, which is something to be seen too, because maybe it's not, you know, there are a lot of actors in Catalonia at this point that are not going to accept a referendum with a no as the answer, you know. So that's the situation. So what I'm trying to say is that the complexity of the political forces and the fragmentation of the party system with the systems of different party systems, national system, Catalonian system, they create a lot of difficult dynamics to understand from the strategic point of view when it comes to elections. So the actors are following short-term calculations with all of this. They are not foreseeing the long-term consequences of the process. They are thinking much more like, okay, why did we do that? Oh, we're going to lose all of these votes. We're going to do this, or we're going to win these votes. So this is the dynamics that the parties are following all the time. Okay, so that's the idea I'm going to try to explain. Okay? Just, and I'm going to try to go faster. Okay, important events in the escalation. Okay, and I want to say a couple of things are very important. Okay, number one, the Catalan government and more fiscal autonomy similar to the Basque model. And I'm going to explain, if you want me to ask me why is the Basque model, I'll explain to you. But it's a different system. So the Basque model is an exception in the rest of the regions of Spain. So the Basque model has their own system and so the Catalans wanted to say the same. However, we cannot forget that the Catalan government already collects almost 30% of the taxes directly. Did even more than the states in the United States. So we're not talking about, you know, the central government that has no autonomy and no. Okay, fiscal autonomy. We have. But that they go, they claim, they ask, and the response of the central government is no. Okay, that was very bad, and it started the whole thing. The other thing that was very alienating is the Estatuto. It was reformed and approved in 2006, but the PP appealed it to the Spanish Constitutional Court to declare some parts illegal. That was a huge mistake, because the Catalans claim, okay, so we play the legal thing, we play the Estatuto, we approve it, we have a referendum, on and on and on. It was approved by the Spanish government, by the Spanish parliament as well. And then when it's declared, the PP appeal to the Constitutional Court. And then the Constitutional Court, in this case, decided that some articles of that Estatuto should be gone. So the Catalans thought that was unacceptable. That was like, okay, that's the line. So in fact, the point of the part of the conflict, it was that one in that moment. Okay? And also important is that the investment plans in the region, they were not accomplished. Okay? So part of the negotiation with the Estatuto is that, okay, we are going to be more investment in Catalonia for infrastructures. Because of one of the things that I've been claiming the Catalans over and over and over. And there were some, so Catalans say it was nothing. No, it's not true. There were some, but they were far away from the goals that were set. So therefore, they were not accomplished and alienating more than okay. I'm going to talk about other events that are relevant to consider. The 2010 Catalan elections. Okay, why I'm focusing on this? Mostly because, and I want to see the results, and I'm going to discuss the results. They're not relevant for the argument, but I want to point two things about these results. It were very bad results for the PSC. So the socialists started to decline very fast in Catalonia, becoming a not important actor in the political process. And remember, the socialists are the ones who were more in favor of the middle of the ground. It's like a federal state as a solution. But they were losing ground electorally more and more for other reasons that has nothing to do with Catalonia, because they were in the national government and they were blamed for the crisis and on and on and on. So remember in 2011, the socialists actually lost the general elections in Spain. So it was an anticipation of what was going to happen in the rest of Spain. But that was very bad news for the system, because this actor that could be key in this process, was losing ground rapidly. Okay. At the same time, you see still Esquerra Republicana Catalunya was like, very little, only 7% of the vote. So we're talking about an actor that is now key, but in 2010, we're not talking about like 25 years ago, we're talking about 20. In 2010, they only were able to go like 7% of the vote. La CUP didn't even exist. Electorally talking. Okay? So, but another important thing that they on this election is this Esquerra Republicana de Catalunya play a very important role to maintain the conservative nationalist government in place. Because they didn't have the majority, so seats, they have only 45%, almost 46%, but it's not the majority of the seats. So where they went to get the seats? Okay, to these guys. You guys give me the seats, and we're going to form this coalition. This coalition and the diminishing of the socialist electorally was the beginning of the problem, because they forced this party to be more radical. They were Catalanist, what we call it in Spain, but they were not pro-independence. But in order to maintain the stability of the government, they start to buy the agenda of Esquerra Republicana de Catalunya and try to show that actually they're more pro-independence than the real ones. And starting this dynamic very fast, okay? Then in the middle of this is the former leader of the president of Catalonia, Artur Mas, okay? This guy, during this legislature, proposed that we have a first referendum. So actually the last referendum was not the first referendum that occurred in Catalonia. They call this the popular consultation. Those are the questions. I'm not going to explain you, but the question was even ridiculous, because there were two questions. First, do you want Catalonia to be in a state? And you say yes or no. And you say yes, okay, do you want that this state is independent? Doesn't make any sense, right? That's the absurd of all these things going on in Spain. Okay? Okay, if you are from a state, you're independent by definition, right? Well, it doesn't make any sense, right? So they decided, and there was like all this referendum, and in this case, the government don't intervene at all. They say, okay, do whatever you want to do. We call this popular consultation. Do whatever you want to do. Vote whatever you want to do. Okay, what happened? That only people pro-independence voted. And the result is ridiculous. It's difficult to understand, because you see, this CC is people that want to be in a state, and that state should be independent. And this the big majority. The problem is that, the percentage of people who actually participate, the turnout was very, very low, and obviously only the people who wanted to in favor of this independence. So this is nonsense, and it has no consequences whatsoever. It has no. The Spanish government ignored it. The Catalan government couldn't do anything with this. It was a joke, pretty much. And then they learned the lesson and say, okay, look, the next one, the next referendum is going to be approved in the Catalan parliament. And it's going to be with a law that allows us to call for an illegal referendum, and explain you why it's illegal, and it's going to have consequences. We win it, it's going to be independence, regardless of the people who participate on it or not. Okay? So that's the first referendum. It turned out estimated, because they don't have in a census, estimated was 37 to 41%. Okay? Okay, this is the turning point. It's the elections, 2015. They called, the president of Catalonia called these elections plebiscitarian elections. Since we are not allowed to have a referendum, we're going to have elections, normal, regular elections. But we're going to call these plebiscitarian elections. Plebiscitarian elections means that you have more yes than no. It's like any referendum, you win. Well, they didn't win. Because you add the vote that was obtained by this coalition, which is the Nacionalista Esquerra Republicana, that the vote by the La CUP, you don't have a majority. So the problem, they have actually 47% of the vote. So you lost the referendum. You call this plebiscitarian elections, but in fact you lost this referendum. But they claim no, that we have the majority in the parliament. Why we have the majority in the parliament? Because we have these seats together with these seats make 72, which is the majority. The absolute majority requires 68. So they claim we have the majority in the parliament. I'm sorry. Okay, let me rephrase this. Okay, you have a majority because in the parliament because as a consequence of the electoral system. But in terms of popular vote, you didn't win. You lost. I don't care. We have the majority. So with this short majority, they decided to implement all these laws. They are illegal, not only with the constitution, they're illegal with the Catalan constitution, and they're illegal with even the procedure with how it was approved in the parliament was illegal. So everything was illegal from the top to the bottom, based on the fact that they have more seats in the parliament. That's all. Okay? So those are the results of the referendum in 2017. You really read this. Okay, it was illegal. Okay, it was against the Spanish constitution. It was illegal even the Catalan constitution. The procedure with which all this was approved, it was also illegal. It was an aggression against Catalan constitution and Catalan institutions. For instance, when this guy declared the independence by suspending independence, immediately they suspended all the activity of the Catalan parliament in Catalonia. No. So the ones who were actually not respecting the institutions of Catalonia are these Catalans. Okay, no the other Catalans. Okay, so the problem is that it's illegal, but who's to be responsible? And that's the discussion. Who's to be responsible for something doing this illegal? Is the government? Is the civil servants? Is who is accountable for doing something illegal? So that's part of the discussion. Some people get arrested, and don't forget that people get arrested because a judge decided to get them arrested. It's true that public prosecutors in Spain are part of the government, but it's a judge who decides who is going to be arrested or not. So it's just judges saying, okay, this should be arrested, this should be not. Well, they understand the Catalans that it's a political persecution and it is political prisoners. They call these political prisoners and on, which is not. It's really somebody who experienced when I was a kid. Experience the Franquist regime is an insult for the people who were actually politically prosecuted in the fascist regime. Okay, so so that is the situation of the referendum. For now, you already know that by the press. Okay, I'm going to go to the explanation part. Explanation part. Lack of self-government in Catalonia. That could be an explanation. I mean, these guys really need some more. Is Spain a centralized country that really needs more decentralization? Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to use the Regional Authority Index, which was created by scholars, very famous scholars in the Department of political science in UNC, Marx and Hook and Scasel, which is another scholar from Europe, and they created an index. So this is a very serious, rigorous academic work. Okay, we're talking about here. Okay, they use different indices, and what I saw is like, okay, what I saw in this is that Spain is one of the most decentralized countries in the world. Very clear. And it's measured by self-rule, the capacity to self-rule, and the capacity to influence on the decision process on many areas of policies. So this index is an objective index. You can have more discussion of why it should be or not or whatever, but it's an international priority which is highly reputed. And you see that Spain is up there. It's with Germany and with Belgium. I mean, we're talking about even in some area, even like third rule is even farther away from the United States and not that distant in terms of self-rule. So we're talking about a highly decentralized state, okay? Okay, so this is like, this is repeating the same idea. This is the index by states. This is the index this is by ethnic groups. So we talk about the Catalans, and we see is one of the highest in, compared with the French speakers in Quebec and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's repeating the same idea. It's like, you know, it is not a decentralization process. It's a problem. It's something else, okay? I always saw here the evolution of decentralization over time, and you see this in 1980, and it immediately was very high, and it's the three indices. But the more important one is this composed one. You see it was high very fast, and it started to increase and increase and increase. And every process of increase is the result of a negotiation with the central government. Okay? So it was this process of negotiation with the central government. Okay, I need more, I want more, and I want more. So it was very high at the very beginning. Okay, problems. And I want to emphasize this. Do important things. Self-government for all regions equalized at the maximum. What it means is that even though the Catalans were doing this, you know, the rest of the comunidades autónomas, they're following the Catalan path. By the argument, if the Catalans have it, I want it. If the Catalans have it, I want it. So the problem is that you reach equalization at the very top of the potential decentralization process. Okay, and that's an important aspect to understand of this. And secondly, there is it was an unclear system of redistribution of funding by the central government. And that was part of the discussion also. It's not about how much taxes you collect. We were able to collect almost 30%. But also the rest of the money that has to be redistributed among the comunidades autónomas, the mechanism, it was obscure. It was not clear. And it has been a lot of academic debate in Spain. You know, we should have to fix it, and on and on. So it was open to any kind of interpretation, and that was part of the discussion. Okay, you're giving me less money because I'm Catalan. No, I'm giving you this money because this ratio. Well, okay, this ratio is unclear to me. How you computed this? Plus, I can ask you that, for instance, one of the arguments is the ordinal order of redistribution, which means if I am the comunidad autónoma that is contributing number third, I should be the comunidad autónoma that in which the state spent the third one in which the state spent the most. So I'm willing to give money to Spain, but I want that you respect this ordinal thing, because it means I have more demands. I have more people, I have more economic activity, I need more infrastructure, and on and on. So therefore, that should be part of the discussion. Okay. So we discard this, that it's a problem of decentralization, and it's some flaws around here, which is part of the discussion, but not to the point that to reach the level of conflict that we have right now. Okay. The other one is national identity. I want to show you this very fast. Okay, so people say, well, it's an identity problem. Okay, this is data of 1985 versus 2013. Look. Before 1985, and even before, I'll tell you, like, I can show you data from 2003, 2004. Okay, the distribution is like people consider more Catalan and Spanish, and it's okay. Okay, I can be Catalan, but I can be Spanish, but I feel more Catalan. But there's also a lot of people who consider Spanish as much as Catalan. Okay, here. Look, see the huge change over here. So what this is telling me is that the independence movement and Catalan identity polarization has been together. They're feeding each other up. So it's not like this is not a scenario in which you have a lot of people with a strong identity, of Catalan identity. Okay, I want it, and then claiming more independence because they feel Catalan. No, the process of independence, what is called the process, they're feeding each other back, you know. And the mistakes of the central government, the discourse of the political class in Catalonia, the leaders, and on, what is feeding each other up and producing this identity process. So it was not a problem of lack of understanding of the Catalan identity as a mechanism that produced this polarization process. Okay, and also more and more, this will produce also is not only the increase of this, but also a strong in-group and out-group sentiments. In other words, like, okay, you know, you are a Spaniard, or you are from where, or you're not Catalan. You know, that kind of sentiment of confrontation and distrust started to increase substantially together. Okay. Some people say, well, you know, this is a result. It's a generational problem. It has to do with socialization. A lot of people were educated in the Catalan system, and therefore they have a brainwash over a generation. And a lot of people like, okay, let me tell you, this graph which is showing this is not true. This is young people under 35, so people who were socialized mostly under the Catalan school, you want to call it, and this is the people who were socialized under the Spanish school because it was still under the Francoist regime. So it's people over 60. So it's young people under 35 and over 60. And what you see is there not much difference in terms of generation. What you observe is that since 2010, suddenly there was an increase there, and it occurred equally to both. So it's not a socialization process. It has nothing to do with brainwash. Or at least brainwash of young people. Maybe, you know, it has an effect, obviously, public opinion and all this kind of stuff, but it was affecting everybody else, regardless of the education. So if we discard this, which are the more common explanations, so what is the really behind this polarization? And I'm going to argue two things. Is the financial crisis and the reduced leverage to increase decentralization. Because it was at its maximum. Remember, I make this argument. So when the Catalan government goes there and I say, we want more, the Spanish government said, well, we can renegotiate some things, but more decentralization, I don't know how, it's not invented. You know, I can give you more fiscal capacity instead of 30%, you call it 50%. Or we can go to the Basque model, but the Basque model is pretty practically to explain you very simplified way. The Basque government collect all the taxes. They make them their compute how much they need, how much they contributed to the government, to the Spanish government, and how much the Spanish government contributed to the Basque country, and therefore they compute a balance of how much money they have to give to the Spanish government. Okay, news for you: this balance has been zero for many, many years. So imagine that is happening all the regions of Spain. You know, there is no central state, it's gone. Spanish state is gone. Who's going to fund it? You know, who's going to fund it? The army. Who's going to fund it? The national police. Who's going to fund it? The foreign service. Who's going to fund it? Because everything is going to say, okay, no, its balance is zero. I don't give you anything. Plus, you increase, obviously, the territorial differences. In Spain, I mean, if you've been in Spain, I mean, you go to Andalusia and it looks nice, and you know, and go to Sevilla and it's clean and nice, but economically, it's a huge disparity between Catalonia or the Basque country and Andalusia. So we need to modernize, we can have the same debate in the European Union, it's the same debate. Inter-territorial solidarity to create a unified market and political entity, okay? So that's part of the problem, okay? So I think that, I'm going to explain this produced a breakdown of the equilibrium of the territorial model. So the Spanish constitution and his implementation produced some kind of equilibrium in the system. And equilibrium means that the cost of getting out of, or the perception of the cost of getting out of the equilibrium, it was too high. So I don't get everything I wanted, but I better stay because the cost is higher to be out, you know? Okay, what happened is that this system produced a breakdown. I'm going to explain with a very simple graph to demonstrate what happened there. And also political parties and the electoral strategies in subnational electoral arenas is the other element. I already explained that. Okay, the parties in Catalonia is different. They have different set of parties. And national parties are doing different in Catalonia than the rest of Spain. It's the same in the Basque country. It's the same in other areas of Spain. It's only the Basque in Galicia. in Navarra, other areas of Spain. What happened is the dynamics of is a constant conflict between the party interests at the subnational level and at the national level. They're thinking, well, what is my most important area of electorally talking? Oh, it's Spain, or it's Andalusia. So I'm not going to alienate Andalusians, offering the Catalans the possibility of giving them more money. So it's this constant like short-term calculations the parties are having in place what is producing all of this. Okay, look at this. This is for the first argument. This is the break of equilibrium. This indicates, this is measured by, this is like, this is the level of respondents, it's the average. The level of responding people saying what is the level of observed decentralization. So they have a scale from 0 to 10 and say, okay, what is the level of decentralization you think that your region is having? And they say it's 3, 4, 5. This is the average, okay, for a region. This is what they wish they have. Do you want more? What is the level of decentralization that you want? Observe. This is what is in equilibrium is these areas of Spain. It's people who has less desire of decentralization compared with the perception that they have of the level of centralization. Where the problem are? Where the problems start? In Navarra, Catalonia, and País Vasco. Look, and because it's this match between the observed centralization, they take into account also this observed centralization in a way is an opinion. It's not an objective measure. It's an opinion created by public opinion, and And this is and this is what they really want. So this match was the origin of the problem because some parties observe the possibility of growing electorally because this is done by parties. So you see, the socialist, in terms of the same comparison, this is observe and this is wish, desire. And here they don't, they see a little bit of the growth, but okay, it's possible. But look at this. This is the PP. This is not in no way. But look, especially the Conservative Party. This is data from 2010. The Conservative Party was thinking, okay, look, this is a huge capacity to grow electorally. We have an incredible capacity to grow electorally if we exploit this. So that's part of the problem. Okay, this is the article I published in the European Political Science Review in 2014 dealing with this topic. And I want to explain all of this because there was a complex article with the multi-level regression, blah, 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 blah. And I don't want to just say the argument of this. The individual preference for the model of the state mostly depend on two things at the individual level. So people thinking, no, I want an independent state. No, I want a comunidad autónoma. No, I want a centralized state. This opinion, which is the dependent variable, depends on two things. Party identification, and party identification in interaction with the national party system, which means that party identification becomes very strong in situations in which you have a high percentage of pro-nationalist support. In other words, what this article is trying to show is that public opinion on these issues it depends a lot on the activity of parties and their electoral calculations in the subnational arenas. Okay, and that's this is the regressions. This is like data. It's irrelevant. So I'm gonna conclude is okay. I explained the conflict and how bad is the conflict and all, and we're talking about emotions and flags and it's out of proportion, but it's still room for negotiation and a political solution. Okay, I want to show you this survey. Okay, and they are offering different options today, and this is a survey that was done a week ago by actually a very highly respected polling company. The option number one is remove the Catalan government. Article 155 that I mentioned before. Okay, there is a big majority is against in Catalonia, so that's no solution. So what the PP is trying to do is not. They might think that it might work, but in terms of public opinion, it's not going to work because the majority is against it. And not only that, even citizens against independence, there is a division of opinion on this. They don't see why how this is going to resolve the problem. Let's go to more autonomy for Catalonia, which is the middle ground. It's discussing about federal model, what we should do. And here you see that the distribution in favor in Catalonia is much higher. And not only that, even people for independence, they are divided together with the fact that citizens against independence is a big majority. So this should be the solution. It should be to find a solution, to renegotiate the constitution, to find a mechanism, to find a political solution how. Okay, what is the other alternative? Is the unilateral independence. Well, we have the same problem because, unilateral difference also is like, it has a majority, a strong majority here, it's very divisive, and not only is it also very divisive in terms of even among Catalans, but also is only favored in people, citizens for independence. But look at this, a lot of people, which is 50% of the Catalan population, are against this independence. So this option and this option are the radical options, and they're going to fix anything. What they're going to fix is, in terms of public opinion, is an opportunity for leaders to work in that direction. Okay, so that is it. What is the challenge of this solution? I mean, it's not an easy one because well, we reform the constitution. Okay, well, this negotiation and renegotiating the constitution could have implications for the European Union too, because it could open other areas. For instance, in Italy this week or this weekend, they're having a referendum in Lombardia and Veneto to expand the autonomy of the region. So if the Spanish government say, okay, we're going to reopen the whole constitutional debate and discuss about the solution, also could have a very bad effect on the rest of territories in Europe that have this problem because, okay, what we should do is declare independence and then we're going to get more autonomy with self-government. So, and also say, and reforming the constitution, you say, oh, yeah, there's reforming the constitution. Negotiating a new territorial model in this context is going to be very difficult. It's not going to be easy. And one of the things, because the division among the constitutional actors about the reform and the model by a qualified majority is needed. Okay, so in other words, what I'm trying to say is that any constitutional negotiation, then you have to go to the Spanish parliament and it has to be approved by 2/3 of the Spanish parliament. And then it has to go to a referendum in all Spain. Okay, given the division among constitutional actors, for instance, the PP is against all of this, and now it's surrendering a little bit and say, okay, constitutional reform, but they don't believe in it. The socialists are divided. Ciudadanos are completely against it. And not only we have to include a big majority in Catalonia, so we have to at least count with the former moderate nationalist party in Catalonia. So this solution is wishful thinking. I mean, it's not impossible. And given how dramatic is the situation at this point, in some moment in time, these guys have to sit together and think about it. But at this point, I don't see it to happen, and we are far off seeing it to happen. And also, another important is resistance for the other comunidades autónomas, regions of Spain. They're going to say no. No, if the new constitution put Catalonia in a specific status, the rest of the comunidades autónomas are going to say, no way, no way. Okay? No way. And there's going to be a lot of resistance in that direction. Also, there is a problem that a lot of people have high expectations in Catalonia. I mean, you send the people in the streets. You make them believe. How you convince these people, okay, no, forget about all this, we're going to talk about negotiation of constitution, and on and on and on. That is going to be very difficult and very challenging. And one of the things, because the most radical parties of the system are going to say, you see, they are traitors to Catalonia, so therefore vote for us. So it's going to have electoral consequences in the forthcoming future. So it's not that easy, okay? And also there is a huge fracture among Catalans themselves, and the Catalans with the rest of the citizens of the state. And that fracture is going to be very difficult. Even if today they reach an agreement and nothing else happened, I mean, the level of polarization, the level of emotional discussion, I mean, the atmosphere in Catalonia today is insufferable. Okay? And finally, there is also, no matter what the state decided to do, there is a very limited presence of the state in Catalonia. That's the truth. Whatever the Catalans say, there is the Spanish government has, is very limited. In fact, to stop the referendum, the government has to send a lot of police from the rest of the state, and they don't have any place to put them, so they put it in the ship, in the port of Barcelona, because they don't have a place to put all this police. So that is a problem. Okay? Solutions I don't have, so I hope you understand the complexity of all of this and see and you learn something from all of this and that's it, okay? Just I want to invite you to visit the Rexent Center for Research and Expertise Center of Survey Methodology in Barcelona. We have summer schools and all the stuff is going on in there. Okay? Thank you very much.
With that, we have time for just a few questions.